you ever wondered if there's a sound out there that could make you lose your mind? Not a metaphor, not an exaggeration. A real sound, so perfectly engineered, or maybe so accidentally cursed, that it doesn't just disturb you, it changes you. Tonight we're diving into a story most people will never talk about openly. A story that stretches across hidden labs, underground internet forums, and the deepest corners of music theory. A story known only by a chilling name, the song that drives people insane. The myth starts in fragments. A few lines of text on an archived forum, an MP3 that vanishes minutes after being uploaded, a username that never posts again, and behind all of it, one claim, that somewhere, out there, there's a piece of music no human should ever hear in full. Some say it's an experiment gone wrong, others, that it's an old psychological weapon from the Cold War. But the deeper you dig, the more you realize something strange. This legend might not be entirely fiction. To understand how a song could even affect your sanity, we have to go back. Back to the 1950s, when sound research was still unregulated. Governments, especially the US and Soviet Union, were obsessed with the human mind, how to control it, how to break it, and how to rebuild it. Among the declassified projects, you'll find reports of psychoacoustic warfare, sound-based experiments designed to alter brainwaves and induce extreme emotional responses. Frequencies that caused panic, hallucinations, even nausea. Some of those tones, according to researchers, were never meant to be heard again. But let's fast forward. In 2008, a file appeared on a small experimental music forum. It was called the Cold Song.wav. Users claimed that listening to it made them feel heavy and confused. A few said they experienced mild paranoia for hours. The post was deleted within a day, but copies spread on darknet music servers. What made it terrifying wasn't just the sound, a droning tone mixed with distorted whispers, but the pattern underneath. When analyzed, the spectrogram showed shapes resembling human faces. Random coincidence? Maybe. But one listener, a user named Gla55Hound, posted this message before deleting his account. It's not the sound that hurts, it's the silence after. No one ever heard from him again. Now, of course, you could say this is all internet storytelling, creepypasta for people who listen to ambient music. But there's real science behind why sound can mess with your brain. Frequencies below 20 Hz, called infrasound, are known to cause anxiety, fear, and hallucinations. They vibrate just below the range of human hearing, tricking your nervous system into thinking something's wrong. Combine that with dissonant harmonics and binaural beats, frequencies that create illusions in your perception of sound, and you have a recipe for psychological chaos. In short, it is entirely possible to make a song that drives you to the edge of madness. You just have to know what buttons to press. But here's where the story turns from creepy to forbidden. In 2012, a group of audio students at a European conservatory claimed to reconstruct the insane song using pure mathematical ratios derived from cognitive science papers. They called the piece Silencio 22. It was only 4 minutes long, built from 3 overlapping tones and a decaying melody that seemed to fight itself. The experiment was meant to explore discomfort in sound. But after only 2 full playthroughs, one of the students reportedly had a panic attack and refused to speak about it again. The recording never went public, but fragments of its waveform were found embedded inside a later project file, and the shape of that waveform, identical to human alpha brainwaves. It is as if the song didn't play to the brain. It played like one. There's something haunting about that idea, that music, at its most primal, is not entertainment, it's communication. Between you and something older than language, between neurons, frequencies, and chaos. Think about it. Your brain is electrical, rhythmic, and reactive to sound. So what happens when a sound doesn't just reach your ears, but synchronizes with your mind? That's the concept behind entrainment, a real psychological effect where external rhythms can alter your brainwave states. Used right, it can calm you. Used wrong, it can distort your sense of time, space, even self. That's why legends like this feel too real. Because they exploit something already inside us, that fragile link between perception and insanity. But the most disturbing part? The story doesn't end there. In 2019, a thread appeared on a private Discord server for underground musicians. Now, let's stop for a second. Why would a random ambient recording trigger instant DMCA removals from anonymous sources? You can fake a lot of things online, but that means someone, somewhere didn't want this sound circulating. And when you listen to the re-uploaded versions that survived, distorted, incomplete, filtered through noise, there's something uncanny about them. Like they're not just random tones, but patterns, breathing patterns, whisper rhythms, almost like someone is inside the sound. And that brings us to the most chilling theory of all, that the insane song isn't a single recording. It's a template, a formula, a mathematical structure buried deep inside certain types of modern music, especially experimental and electronic. That exploits how our brains respond to micro-intervals and chaotic timing. The right combination doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it triggers the parts of your brain that process fear and identity. It breaks your sense of safety. And according to one fringe theory, if you layer enough of these patterns together, you could theoretically erase a person's short-term memory, at least temporarily. Sound impossible? Researchers at Stanford have already documented audio patterns that can scramble short-term recall for up to 30 seconds. Now imagine that effect amplified. There's even a name whispered in those circles, Project Resonance. Supposedly a test by a private defense contractor in the early 2000s, using psychoacoustic weapons designed to disable enemy combatants without killing them. A sound that doesn't destroy buildings, it destroys focus. Some leaked documents describe field tests using continuous tone modulation to induce confusion and vomiting. Officially, the project doesn't exist. Unofficially, fragments of those frequencies line up eerily with tracks that appeared online years later, under artist names that don't exist, on labels that vanish overnight. Coincidence? Maybe. But here's where it gets weird, bro. A few of those tracks are still up. You can find them if you know where to look. They don't have titles, just numerical file names, uploaded at odd hours, often between 3 and 4 a.m. GMT, what musicians call the dead frequency window. They usually have under 200 plays, and every comment section looks the same. A few emojis, a timestamp, and then a line that repeats, "I heard it breathe." Nobody ever replies. But maybe this whole thing is just an elaborate ARG, right? Maybe it's an internet myth feeding itself. That's what most people think, until they try one thing. They play those tracks at extremely low volume, in a silent room, on loop. And after about 5 minutes, they all report the same effect. Silence stops feeling silent. The air vibrates faintly. The silence after the song isn't silent. It's alive. That exact phenomenon, the aftersound, is something neurologists have actually studied. When the brain is exposed to irregular rhythmic patterns, it continues to fill in the missing beats after the sound stops. It's called the auditory continuity illusion. But if the patterns are chaotic enough, your brain doesn't know when to stop filling them in. Meaning you can literally hear something that's no longer there. That's not supernatural. It's your brain looping madness in real time. So when people say, the silence after hurt, maybe that's exactly what they meant. Now here is the kicker. A few music producers have admitted they've accidentally made unlistenable tracks that caused panic in test listeners. One artist, who asked to remain anonymous, said a single bass tone in one of his songs made half the studio crew feel sick. When they checked the waveform, it contained a rare harmonic at exactly 17 Hz, the frequency associated with feelings of dread. That's the same range studied by the British Army for non-lethal sonic crowd control. The artist swore it wasn't intentional. He deleted the project that same night. You might think this is science fiction, but history's full of examples of sound being used as power. From the ancient Jericho trumpets said to crumble walls, to secret Nazi acoustic cannons, to the Havana syndrome that may have been caused by ultrasonic beams. Sound has always been more than music. It's energy. And like all energy, when you push it too far, it pushes back. And maybe that's why these stories persist. because we want to believe that music is more than entertainment. That hidden inside melodies and frequencies lies something ancient, maybe even sacred. But if music can heal, then it can also destroy. Maybe that's what the insane song represents. Not a literal file, but the idea that we've reached a point where sound itself is too powerful for the human mind. So the next time you find a weird audio file online, no title, no tags, uploaded by an account with 0 followers, think twice before pressing play. Because what if it's one of those songs? The ones built on frequencies that don't just echo through your speakers, but through you. What if the real reason the song disappears after you listen isn't because it was deleted, but because it's inside you now? And when the video ends, when the sound fades and you're left alone in silence, listen carefully. If you can still hear the echo, then maybe the silence isn't silence at all.